Question right over there.
Yes, what is your timeline for distribution for educational purposes?
Okay, so what is your timeline for distribution of this film for educational purposes?
One of the big reasons I made this film because of Dr. Stan Ludit, who worked so hard. He was so passionate about making sure people will understand what a treaty is, and in particular, Treaty Number 9. And he said and repeated it so many times. He went around doing conferences, as you see him in the film, and to teach and to make sure that all the Canadians should understand what a treaty is. Because all my life, I hear people talking, you go to a different province, and if they're treaty people, the word treaty is constant, it's part of the everyday life. But when you say that to people who came here, they say, what's that treaty? It's a normal thing without, why don't you shut up about that? It doesn't mean anything. And it's more alive than ever. And it took, when we are given a life that is not ours, a language that is not ours, a religion that's not ours, and told, this is yours now. And if you do otherwise, you'll pay for it. And when you're in it, you don't realize, you think, oh, this is life, this is the way it is. It takes us a long time to figure out how we got where we are. Very long time. But we have prophecies from way back, and people said the 7th generation, it will be young people, they will come and they will save our people. And so since the 60s, when we became citizens of our country for the first time, 1960, and in the province, we were given the right to vote at different times. Quebec was the last one to give us the right to vote provincially if you lived on a reserve, and it was in 1969. So all that history, and I witnessed a lot of it because I'm 82 years old. So, but I want to say, with all the trouble, and we still have plenty of trouble, but we still have a lot of wonderful things. And in the last 40 years, there's been a lot of changes forced, by us, but we've made progress. First of all the residential schools are gone. Thank God for that. Our people, yes, our people have managed, and you couldn't go to university if you live on a reserve until 1951, 52. 49 when the human rights was created, and then the United Nations forced Canada to look at the way they're treating their indigenous people. And that's the first time that the paragraph in the Indian Act was changed. We all of a sudden became a person, an Indian, no more a savage, because the real word was savage. And the teaching was like that. I went to school where I was really apart, and I got beat up a lot, especially when they taught the history of Canada. When you think that books were written, designed to make sure, as I am teaching, that you are going to hate these people who were here before the strangers came. Designed. It took me many years to figure it out, but I did. And I thought someday I'm going to do something to influence education. What could I do? So I thought, well, I can sing. I know my history. I'm going to go to the classroom. I'm not going to reproach what they are doing and the lies they're making. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about ourselves, our history. I'm going to talk about the love that we have of the land, of the water, the respect that we have, and tell lots of stories to the children. And I'm going to show them Indian games at recreation. And I started doing that, and I would come with my drum, and when I would first go in, you should see the teachers looking at me with eyes, they were ready to kill me. I knew what they were thinking. What is she going to tell the children? Well, after a day in a school, they'd say, come back, can you stay for a month? You do all the classroom. I did many, many, many schools, and then I did many prisons, because in the 60s, they were saying 68% of the prisoners were Indian. I thought, well, if all my brothers and sisters are there, I'm going to come and visit. And I went there. I went all over the place, and I sang everywhere. I sang my way through education all the way up here. And eventually, I was doing a campaign to build a swimming pool on my reserve. And they made a film about it, and then I was invited to the film board. And they had a studio that everything they did was for education. film strips in those days. And I don't know if you know, you're too young, but a film strip was like a strip of 35 mil celluloid. And you work with photographs and slides, and you organize your story, you number everything. And the sound, like I would go and interview people with a tape recorder, would come on a separate thing. So back in the classroom, you had this little projector and a record player on a long player. And it took me 2 years to do this. We did it in 3 languages, and I'm telling you, it was so much work. And also, I was learning. So I thought, when I go back to the reserve with this, they're going to say, Alanis, what did you do? Because you'd have the strip going through the projector, and the record was here, and you'd hear a voice saying, there were 12 chiefs here in Manoan. Boing! And the frame would move. Every phrase. And I thought, oh la la, when are they going to say when they see this? But it was the first time we had a professional an educational kit. It was the voice of the people. It was what was most important to them, tradition, history, and the teacher used it. So back in the classroom, you could meet a nation and know their history. Well, we were like children. We were so happy. So anyway, I've been there ever since.
We have time for one more question over there. Yep, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank you, Alanis, and I wanted to just make a comment and ask you if you wanted to respond at all. But as an Aboriginal midwife in Toronto, I was really delighted. My teachings have always been that women is the first environment, and that you drew a parallel between missing and murdered Aboriginal women in Canada and the rape and destruction of our environment on the land. And these two, I wanted to comment, that are very, very much tied together and part of continuing.
Thank you.
And our government continues to ignore. So I just wanted to comment and thank you for drawing that parallel in your film, and wondered whether you wanted to make any comments about that.
So let me repeat that quickly. So she noticed the parallel that Alanis makes in the film between missing and murdered Aboriginal women and the rape of the land, and she's asking Alanis if she would like to comment on this.
Well, in making this, I always go back to the root of things, and I listen to people, and I listen all my life. I was raised where there was no electricity, and we had oil lamps, and in the nighttime, an old person would start telling us some stories, their own experience in life, and you know, where I come from, all the men were guides for fishing and hunting, so they had lots of stories to tell, and we would listen, and if there was 5 or 6 people listening to that, you had 5 or 6 different movies, because there was no images, and I'm so used to listening and making up the images about what they are talking. Maybe it's not that, but I have my own image. So this is the reason when I start making films, I always go first alone with a recorder, and I interview people, and I just hear what they say, and I never get tired of hearing how people have survived all what's happened on this land. And so this is where I speak to a lot of women. Women have they are very highly respected, because the highest power in the world, in life, is to give birth, is to give life. And our people always told us how important that was, and how you must respect that woman. And then the man have another role, and representing in a lot of places, before the government system was developed, the women had a say. They're the ones in most areas that would choose who would be the leader. And only the leader could speak after hearing where the consensus was. So this is why there's been a lot of trouble around what we have. So, but this being said, There's been a lot of wonderful things. We have doctors, we have lawyers, we have judges, we have nurses, we have filmmakers, we have all that standing up in the canoe. We did it.